He's a god among men.
This is speaking in sync with Brian, and it works. Yeah.
It's true.
This reminds me of I was a wee lad, and I was playing Guilty Gear XX Sharp Reload on the Xbox with people in Japan because nobody in the fucking US owned that game. And I'm sitting here like 7-frame input delay, like
you might as well be on console, right?
I saw beyond you.
Australians playing on North American servers, we learn to see the future.
Yeah, I was like ultra instincting people, man. Like I could see into the beyond.
I was gonna make a Dragon Ball reference, and this is what it looks like to go even further beyond. Anyways, here we go. It's episode 326 of The Platformers, a show about games and nerd culture, and I am your host, Brian Barnett.
I can see the future, Chris Cornelise.
Hey, what's up? I'm Will Berger.
I'm Lucas White.
Hell yeah, Lucas. It's fucking Lucas. I was doing that shit before you guys came on because
Brian has been imbibing, ladies and gentlemen.
We started unhinged. Even before we hit record, we have just been unhinged.
It's gone. I'm already gone, guys. I have been
hingeless.
I have been a single parent for the last 3 days, and I'm about to be for 3 days more, baby. Let's get it.
Yeah. He is going through it.
I am sleep deprived, and I am tipsy, and I just had half of my brother-in-law's sandwich that he left in my refrigerator. Let's get it. We're going to talk about my refrigerator. My refrigerator. I think it was a Panera Bread bacon turkey Bravo, which is a good sandwich. But
it has bacon on it. It's good. That's the rule.
So I don't eat pig, but the sandwich is good. Turkey is good. I dig turkey.
Fair enough.
But yeah. Anyways, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff this week. We should say, all of us have played Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred. We are not talking about this week. We're not this week. We are not talking about that this episode because we're actually going to do a standalone episode where we get into spoilers once that can be talked about. Because since we're actually
every year,
yeah.
It is said that the platformers assembles to discuss Diablo.
It is true.
At length.
Yeah,
Stay a while and listen.
Stay a while and listen. Yeah. I believe our Diablo 4 full spoiler cast was like 4 or 5 hours. It was out of control.
It was more than 4. I can promise you that.
Christ. It is as long as the playing of the Order, 1886.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
And a damn sight more fun to listen to.
That's true. That is true. If you listen to the Order 1886, not going to be a good time for you.
Not nearly as fun. Although I will say that I am actually an Order 1886 enjoyer.
Will and I share this opinion. We bonded over that earlier because we both enjoyed the Order 1886. It's a shame that they did not get to. I mean, this is like
it's a shame that Ready at Dawn doesn't exist anymore.
Speak about depressing things. Like they made 2 pretty decent God of War games for the PSP.
Yeah,
you know,
talented studio.
Yeah. Talented studio. Real shame. Order looked really great. Actually played pretty well. Was just too short and too piecemeal. But I would have really liked to see what they could have done with a follow-up. But unfortunately, we live in a world where the video games industry doesn't get chances for follow-ups. So we have Street Fighter 1, and then they close down Capcom. And we have Mega Man 1, and then they close down Capcom again. We don't ever get Mega Man 2, we don't ever get Street Fighter 2.
And then they close down Capcom.
Yeah.
Capcom closes down a lot in this fantasy.
Yeah.
Capcom.
And the funny thing...
Oh no, we lost Will.
Oh no.
I'm back.
You're back.
What I was saying was that's actually kind of bonkers if you think about it. Like I know that's why you said it, but like imagine like what you don't get, right? Just Capcom. Just Capcom. Or just like, I don't know, like Blizzard's first fucking games didn't set the world on fire, right?
Yeah.
Like,
you don't get Warcraft 3. You don't get World of Warcraft. Yeah.
You don't get StarCraft. You don't get Diablo.
Yep.
which we'll be talking about again. You don't get, I mean, like, and then you go to like other studios, right? Like you pull that out to like big picture, right? Like, and how many of the best games that you've played are like a sequel to a game that was basically just a proof of concept?
Imagine
Can you
what
imagine?
you lose if Final Fantasy really was the Final Fantasy.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
You don't get any that is that is one of the big ones. Like we talk about Capcom, Final Fantasy was called, people are like, why wasn't it the final one? It was supposed to be. That was like the swan song for the studio, but it hit and people loved it, which is why Square continued to exist. We wouldn't get FF10. We wouldn't get FF7, 6, 4. We wouldn't get any of the Square games that came out after FF1. Like, which are
no Chrono
all
Trigger,
of the best games that they ever made.
Yeah.
Like Final Fantasy Tactics would not exist, which is in my top 5 games of all time. Crazy.
We never had Mario Hoops 3-on-3.
Jesus Christ.
Somehow we keep coming back to that one.
What was the first
it does.
what was the first Nintendo game ever made? Was it Mario Brothers or was it something else?
It was
Sky
Gunner, Sky something. It was a shooter, wasn't it?
So then
it was not Donkey Kong. I'll tell you that.
No.
So we would not get Donkey Kong, we would not get Mario Brothers, we would not get
Zelda.
We didn't get Popeye.
Metroid,
Popeye
all the rest.
We wouldn't get Metroid. Honestly, if you judge the entire Metroid season or Metroid series based off of one, we're not getting Super Metroid. If you judge it based on if you don't have Baldur's Gate, which is like good, you don't get Baldur's Gate 2, which is fucking incredible. Yeah, it's
and you don't get Baldur's Gate 3, which is also incredible, but not as
very
incredible.
good. Yeah.
Yo, I'm not gonna listen.
Oh no, we lost Will again. No.
He says, "Listen," and then
listen. I'm
He
leaving.
cannot listen. Will died on the way to his home planet.
No. My
I
planet
thought
needs
that was
me.
for a second.
Oh.
I'm sure he had an excellent point, but
I bet you he had a really fantastic point.
I bet you he's still delivering it and he hasn't realized that he's actually offline at the moment.
But you know what? He's recording his own local audio, so we'll get that in post, and then maybe I'll
that's
just
gonna be
mute
a
all the
nightmare
stuff
to
that we're
edit together.
saying because
Yeah,
he's doing a great job. But these are or Kris will mute it in post if Kris is doing this edit. But yeah. Oh
There he goes.
no!
There he's back.
Oh, there he is. Wait, what? Are we getting the boy back? Are we getting the band back together?
while we figure out if Will's alive or not, the game I was thinking of for Nintendo was Skyskipper, and that actually came out right after Donkey Kong. So unless you
Skyskipper.
count,
Okay.
so they had some like stuff before Donkey Kong that was more kind of like toys, sort of. There's a game called Radar Scope that I think technically counts. Yeah, so like early Nintendo's weird.
It's wild to think how long they've been around before even, video games.
Yeah.
They were doing weird stuff in the arcades in the 70s.
Yeah, and they were making playing cards and all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
But anyways, all that to say, we're going to talk about a lot of games this week. I think we might briefly mention what we thought about Diablo 4's upcoming expansion, Vessel of Hatred, since we've all played it. But we're not going to start with that. What we can start with is something that I know that Will has not played since he's trying to get his audio sorted, which is I beat over the last 2 weeks. I beat Persona 3 Reload and Persona 3 Reload The Answer DLC, which is also called Episode Aigis.
I'm back.
He's back.
Oh, hell yeah. There he is. There's the boy.
What was the last thing I said?
Listen to this.
No. Yeah.
You know what? Don't listen to this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
If you got it on local audio, we will hear it. So we'll
No, just cut it. You know what? Just cut it.
We'll get it back. We'll get it back. But anyways,
no, seriously, just cut it. It's fine.
Brian, I'm really curious before you keep going.
Okay.
The last time we talked about Persona 3, you couldn't remember if you beat it or not. And my kind of internal reaction to that was like, man, Persona 3's ending is so memorable. There's like no way.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that openly, but there's no way.
Now that you've beaten it, what's kind of the postscript there?
all right.
Have you confirmed that you have not seen this ending, or did you somehow forget? And if you did, how?
So, okay. So I got to the end. The craziest thing about that, so I'm going to keep it very, very light on spoilers, and I'm going to keep it vague with the ending of Persona 3 Reload, because I know that it's like the Reload is like fairly recent, and episode Aigis just came out. So I know that some people might be wanting to go back and get it. I'm always for the like avoid spoilers unless it's a spoiler cast sort of a thing. So I'm going to keep it like
game is 20 years old.
I know. But I also know
the remake is not.
There are games that are older than that I still haven't played that I would be annoyed if they were spoiled. Like, full disclosure, not that long ago, my uncle spoiled
if you say The Sixth Sense, I'm gonna kill you.
No, dude, it's even fucking worse. It's even worse than that. So my uncle's girlfriend is a grade school teacher. She did not know the spoiler from The Empire Strikes Back. And he fucking spoiled it as we sat down to watch it with her for the first time.
How old is this woman?
She's like 50-something.
How?
I have no idea. But she dodged that spoiler for decades. And he spoiled it as we sat down to watch it in his living room. I will never forget that, and I will never forgive him for doing that.
So
what was her reaction to that?
It was, I didn't know that. Because she'd never seen Star Wars before. So it's just, anyways. But yeah, it was...
Okay, so I need to understand this, because this is to me is psychotic behavior. So she had never seen Star Wars.
She had never seen Star Wars. She's not a big movie person.
And these people exist.
Yes.
I don't understand how these people go through life, but they exist.
The craziest thing to me is I don't understand how she was a school teacher and the kids didn't talk about it.
She might have just not had context.
Maybe. It's possible.
Anyway, so I need to understand this, because again, this is psychotic to me.
Yes.
Knew that she'd never seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And at no point did the thought enter his brain like, she might not know the plot.
No, that's the craziest thing to me is that's literally the reason we were watching it, is because she had never seen it.
God bless him.
He is a fucking idiot. I cannot.
That's wild.
I cannot.
Episodes of his podcast that Brian cannot recommend to his uncle, R.I.P.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Maidenless behavior.
I cannot. Yeah, that is 1000% maidenless behavior. He's a good dude. I just can't fucking believe that he did that shit. I will never forget that as long as I live. Anyways, so talking about Persona 3 Reload. So
had you seen it or not? We're desperately curious. We need the answer, man.
So I played, and it's crazy because I remembered there are several twists on the lead into the end of Persona 3 Reload. And I remembered one of them. So there is a reveal on who one of the villains is. I'm not going to reveal who it is. I remembered that. So I had gotten that far. I did not remember what the ultimate goal was of that villain. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't that. And the craziest thing is I don't remember the end of the game. However, when the music from the final boss fight was playing, I don't know if it's played elsewhere. I remembered that song. I recognized
It's not played elsewhere, but it is extremely well known because that song kicks ass.
It's very good. So I don't remember. So when I played the end, I was like, oh, I don't remember this. And I didn't remember what happened in kind of the postlude.
Right.
That's called an epilogue, Brian.
Yeah, it's true. It is called that.
Yeah, but postlude is
My man said the
hilarious.
postlude.
So basically, like all the like the most.
Brian
I
out
think
here being
all the
like,
stuff that
let me tell you
happens-
about the prelogue.
I mean, postlude is a thing, but yes,
all the stuff
epilogue
that happens
is
after you beat the boss is like really big, I think.
yes.
So yeah, if you don't remember that, then I don't think you experienced it before.
I don't think I did, but the craziest thing is I must have played like at least 30 hours as the female lead, and I started her after that. So I must have stopped not knowing that the end was just around the corner.
This is like right there.
And yeah, like I literally must have stopped right before the end. And I'm not the type of person that does that. Like I'm never the type of person who plays a game and gets right to the final boss and is like, I'm not going to do this because I don't want this to end. I don't relate to those people. I'm just like, no, I want to see the end of the story. But for whatever reason, I guess I just never finished it, which is crazy to me.
That is wild. Dude.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I beat it this time, and then I went straight into episode Aigis. I was telling Will this when we were talking in DMs a while ago, but this was something that I said previously, even before I had beaten Persona 3, that I liked it more than Persona 4 and Persona 5. And that is cemented. That is like engraved in stone. Like it's not close. Persona 3 is substantially better than Persona 4 and 5.
I just can't believe you had such a strong opinion on a game you didn't finish. That's like it's listen, it's funny. Like it's like Brian like got to the end and he was like, the end is literally nigh.
Yeah.
I better eject this.
Literally.
Yeah.
The end is literally nigh. Like, get this shit out of here.
The crazy thing is, it's better
And then
than.
he was like, I love this game for 20 years.
Yeah, it's better than Persona 4 and 5, even without beating it. Like, even without seeing the ending.
Did you finish them?
Yeah, oh yeah. I platinumed Persona 5 Reload when I reviewed it for the show, and beat Persona 5 and beat Persona 4 Golden on Vita, and got all but one of the trophies. And Persona 3 was still better. Yeah.
I loved it. Didn't finish it.
Yes.
Listen, it can happen to you.
It can happen to you. It can happen to you. Now, to fully disclose everything, I don't know why I didn't finish it. This was in the era where like I had. So this was P3P. So this was on the PSP, which I sold my PSP at one point to buy a Vita. And then a friend of mine gave me...
because you like those bougie screens.
It's because I was broke growing up, and so I had to sell everything I had to get the new thing.
But even then, you were bougie. You knew.
Only as far as screen thickness goes.
Yeah,
good screen.
Screen thickness is Brian's Roman Empire.
I think about screen thickness every day, multiple times a day. Caesar is what I call my Steam Deck. And Nero is my analog pocket. He's fiddling while I'm burning CDs. Anyways, really bad jokes. But anyways, so Persona 3 Reload fucking kicks ass. It's great. It's really fantastic. And then I went straight into episode Aigis.
And he didn't play fighting games with us. And so he could play this DLC. It is the most egregious thing you've ever done. Like we're out here like the entire Golden Weekly's crew is like sitting in chat, like vibing. Yeah. We're playing fighting games. We're like, oh, Brian's like, I'm gonna finish this in a couple hours, then I'll join you.
I did finish it. Unfortunately,
you finished it at like 4 in the morning.
I did finish it at 4 in the morning, and unfortunately,
the rooms were disbanded. Night codes were on. Visions of sugar plums were dancing in heads.
Yes. It was too late. You know, don't listen to Justin Timberlake when he said it's or Or no. It would be
Duelist.
don't listen to 3 Days Grace. When
Good advice.
It's not too late. It's never too late. Listen to Justin Timberlake and say when he says it's too late to apologize. Which, by the way, one of my friends thought forever that he said it's too late to call a judge, which is really funny to me.
There's a British guy who's upset because he thinks it says it's too late to colonize.
Oh, that's a shame. It's a goddamn shame. Did you see that thing that somebody posted where they said finally, because of this like update or something to like sovereignty in some nations, like finally the sun will set on the English empire, on the British Empire? There's like,
finally.
Yeah. At last.
But yeah, anyways, so I started playing episode of Aigis immediately after, which is probably not a good idea.
It's a mistake.
Because what they do in that game is they Metroid you at the beginning. So they reset you to level 25, which I was at level like 90 something. They reset you to level 25. They take away a lot of abilities for basically everyone on your team. They take away, they like swap some characters. And you still have access to the personas that you've made in the base game, but once you export them, you can't re-export them. So if you have anything left to do in the base game, you kind of pay for it. So I had gotten 100% of the Persona Compendium completed before I started the DLC. And so I had access to all of the personas, although you can't summon them until you're that level. And since I had level 99 personas that were extremely powerful, and I was only level 25, it was a fucking problem. And I couldn't do that. And I didn't have that much money, even though I was rich in the base game, which was annoying because it takes place a couple of months after that. That was really obnoxious. This DLC is like 25 hours long, and the first like 20 hours, the pacing is terrible. It's basically just gameplay. And while I do think that The Abyss of Time is better...
That is such a damning thing to say about the gameplay.
It is.
You just play the game for 25 hours, bro.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah. I do think that The Abyss of Time is better than Tartarus, but not by a lot.
So you would say
the problem is there's more gameplay to Persona 3, and half of it is removed, and you just have the battles and dungeon crawling for 20 hours.
Yes.
All I'm hearing is the game plays badly. Oh man, I have to engage with the battle system. This is fucking miserable, bro.
I mean,
I don't want to crawl this dungeon no more.
It's fine. The main problem is they tease you with something right out the gate, and then they basically don't give you any information on that until 20 hours later. They just keep giving you the same tease like every hour and a half to 2 hours. It's like, oh, could that be? Oh, it couldn't be. Who is that person ahead of us? Who is that shadowy figure that's running away from us? And they just keep doing that for 20 hours. And then at the end of that, from hour 20 to hour like 25, it's fucking awesome. Like that last 5 hours or so when they actually get into what the story is going is great. If they had
sounds like it could be like 8 hours long.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, I was just saying this before we started the show. Like if you stretch that out, if you started with what happens in like hour 20 or whatever, and you stretch that out over like 5 to 8 hours, it would have been fucking awesome. It would have been great, but they don't do that. And so what ends is if you don't like the like dungeon crawling from Persona 3, this is going to be really tedious to you. If you do like that, this is more of that. But it's kind of more of that in the way that the Bloodborne DLC, or like the Bloodborne,
Chalice dungeons.
Like those, the Chalice dungeons are more Bloodborne because it's like, well, they're not really more Bloodborne. They're just more like procedurally generated combat zones. but with no story, really.
Yeah, it's a bunch of raw gameplay with no context to
Yes.
make you care about it.
Which is a problem because the whole premise for this is dealing with what happens in the base game. This is the characters coming to terms with some really heavy stuff. Like Persona 3 is easily the darkest of the 3, 4, 5 kind of modern series. Persona 3 is about loss. It is about how you continue living when terrible things happen. It's about really good, powerful, poignant things. But in the DLC, when they have an opportunity to take kind of a victory lap and really dig deep into like the heavy stuff that happens and the repercussions that it has on the characters, it chooses to just not do anything with that for 20 hours. And then they start doing that at like hour 21, from hour 21 to like 25, they really get into it and it made me tear up. Like they actually handle it well. I remember when I was on voice chat when Will was trying to get me to come play fighting games with people, which I really wanted to do. I was just like, I swear, if this ends and they've just teased me this whole time and then it ends up just being what I thought it was going to be, what I thought they were leading towards, I'm going to be really mad. It wasn't that. You know, they're cheating towards one thing and it ends up being something else, which is good. That's good. That is to the expansion's credit. The problem is it's too little too late. You know, they really needed to, and I know that this is like identical to DLC that came out ages ago, but when you re-release it, like you can do something about the pacing. You could improve this. You could stretch this out. Like make the number of doors that you go through in the abyss of time, like half them. Make it 15 hours and not 25. You know, make it 10 or something like that and just like spread out this stuff. And it would have served the experience much more. I used to be the type of person where I would love a really grindy dungeon crawly RPG. Like I played the post game in Final Fantasy X for just dozens of hours where I was on that island fighting all those guys. I had already beaten Omega Weapon. I was just having fun, whatever. But like those times are gone from me. I want to see what you have to say. Mm-hmm. And for if you're just here for the combat, great. Knock yourself out. Episode Aigis, absolutely worth it. It's another opportunity for you to play through some Persona stuff and all that. But if you want story, then they needed to do a better job with that, unfortunately.
Too much padding in video games in general.
Lots and lots of padding in it. I generally agree. Like I haven't played the remake version of it. I've just played the original, but I agree with everything Brian is saying about it. It's so much of Persona 3's like gameplay is, again, it isn't just the dungeon crawling and the battles and everything. Those are good, but if you're doing them for 20 hours straight, you're like, okay, I could, use variety. And it's the fact that there is variety and story and characterization in between that makes those games good. Like the social link stuff is important, and that's completely gone in Aigis. So you just, everything you were built up towards, gone, back. And now you're just starting from scratch with weaker characters and personas and just chipping away at it. And it's like, doesn't end very well. I mean, the story of it is good, but it takes a damn long time to get there. And I agree with Brian's assessment on it that if they were going to remake it, they should have remade it better. They had the opportunity to do so and they didn't. So that sucks.
Probably afraid to, honestly.
I imagine so.
Yeah, it's going to come up with what I brought to the table, talk about later. Just the you can't release a video game now that's less than 30 hours long without a bunch of people being like, that's so short. I need money, dollar value for my hours.
Gameplay per square inch, brother. Those people need to be thrown into a wood chipper.
Yeah, it's awful, and you can see it. There's you can't always see it. Like sometimes it's like, all right, this game is doing what it's doing for however many hours, but like when you can see it in a game, it just Like it hurts so bad.
Yo, Ryan McCaffrey was on Twitter because people were like, "Oh, Alien Isolation 2 is coming out, right? Like, it's getting a sequel."
Yeah.
And he's like, "At last, I can review this sequel, right?" Because his like review is like give it like a 5 or something, like notoriously like this big deal about like people who are like, and I'm like, he was kind of cooking actually. The back half of that game is ass.
I was straight up. I've talked to Ryan about this, and he was like, if the game ended after you escape the first alien, it would be a 10.
Perfect game.
Yeah. And I was
But
like, yeah,
this is just what everyone agrees on. Like, this is just fact.
Yeah.
Your game does not need to be, X number of hours long.
The plague of modern days is just overstaying your welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Games overstay their welcome all the fucking time. It's crazy.
And people believing that sentiment of you must have more or whatever, congratulations. You're why every Ubisoft game is exactly the same, and why every open world game is exactly the same as the Ubisoft game. You're the problem.
Yeah.
This is the end result.
A game comes out and someone's got to chime in with like, how many hours is it? How many hours is it? And it's like, if it's not on some arbitrary high number, then like it's dog shit apparently. It's just like,
it's no good.
Please.
I'm not sure if I missed anything while I was gone.
No, we
I was basically just reaffirming
what you were saying.
Yeah. Just talking about episode Aigis, and
we did an excellent job keeping the flow going. And
hell yeah.
Killed
Hell
it.
Yeah, so I put wait, what? Until I killed it?
Just now, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I put some words up on Backlogged about it. Basically my TLDR on that is the answer shares the same flaws as its protagonists. It just can't bring itself to let go. But yeah, it is worth playing if you can manage that. Like, it was fine to me because Persona 3 dungeon crawling has been like what I've done as I'm sitting on the couch, like kind of watching TV with my wife. So it's like I wasn't really focused on it, so the amount of time it was taking wasn't really a problem for me. But if you can't do that, don't bother with it. However, it is good, and it does expand on what happens at the end of Persona 3 in a good way, in a way that I think, like, the end of episode, I guess, kind of feels like the true ending that you would get from a lot of these types of games, where it's like, okay, here's extra context, here's extra closure, here's, kind of the what's going to happen with the main characters now. And the funny thing about that is these characters show up later in a game that we were talking about earlier, Persona 4 Arena. Like, a lot of these characters show up later in that game. Which is, I don't know if it's canon or not, but it is interesting.
It's canon.
Yeah.
Persona 4 Arena is canon?
As far as anyone can tell, yes, it is all canon.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that,
at least when the game first came out, they said it was canon. I don't know if that's still the case, but
because then Ultimax expands on that. And then so if those are both canon, that has some interesting things.
It basically shows the directions that the characters go and how they, grow and recover.
Yeah.
At least in part.
And it has some interesting, there are some interesting things in Persona 4 Arena about Aigis in particular, if you know what happens in episode Aigis from Persona 3. But anyways, I'll leave that to the fighting game sickos like myself and stuff like that. But yeah, anyways.
I do have one quick question on that.
Sure.
How did you find the final boss of episode Aigis? Was it tough? Was it, challenging?
The final boss?
Yeah.
It had a lot of freaking health.
They tend to.
It wasn't too bad because I was very I went in prepared. I'll put it that way. Like, I was ready. Yeah. So it was over fairly quickly.
Fair enough.
So yeah.
I bring it up simply because in Ultimax, Elizabeth's thing starts with her just soloing that boss on a yearly basis in one shot.
Which is like, I mean, yeah, but there's if you've played Persona 3 and episode Aigis, and then you look at Aigis and Elizabeth's characters in Persona 4 Arena, like you can get some story and lore things out of that. Just with how their characters work and what they have and what they don't have. But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
As an Elizabeth main in P4 Ultimax, it pleased me greatly.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm a Minazuki guy in P4 Ultimax. I played you and Yosuke in P4A. But yeah, I switched to Minazuki in that one because I can't, which is the same reason that I play Virgil in the Marvel games, Marvel 3, because like he gets that teleport. And being able to teleport like behind or in front of your enemies, like just above them, like that shit is so sick. Like I don't care. If your character can do that, I'm fucking playing him. That's sick.
Meanwhile, I play Elizabeth because I hate my opponents.
Yes.
And like filling the screen with bullshit.
Yes. You want to play Thanatos and you want to be like, hey, I have like every element that exists and I'm just going to hit you from wherever. And I have 9 fucking Persona cards. Good
I'm
luck.
over here. You're over there.
Yeah.
Come at me, bro. Good
Nonsense.
luck.
Nonsense. We should play. But anyways.
We should.
But anyways, let's get back to some games that were not played by me.
Yeah, we're only like 40 minutes into the podcast. Yeah,
we are. I've taken up way too much time talking about this shit. But yeah, somebody take it away. Kris, you got something?
What the fuck do you all know about Deadlock?
I have not played it yet, unfortunately.
There was logged into that game to give codes to other people.
Fair enough. So, I've been playing Deadlock.
A noble sacrifice,
Valve's...
Will.
That is a game that I know.
It's not a Will game. I get it. But apparently it's a Kris game because I have been playing more and more of it as time goes on, and I really fucking like it. Which surprises me greatly, honestly. There was a point... Okay, so Deadlock, for those who don't know, is Valve's latest game. It is very much a product of IceFrog, the guy who made Dota 2, and you can tell because there's a lot of people, like, this is... how do I even start with this? It's very, very early in development, like possibly the earliest access that early access has ever had. It's kind of remarkable, actually, and yet it still plays really great in that regard. But there's just so many like little placeholder things, and you know, a lot of it will likely change. But the core fundamentals of it are really, really fucking good. And it's just, it's like, so we're making a MOBA. It is, people, you know, go in thinking, oh, it's a hero shooter, like, you know, Overwatch or Concord, because Concord is, you know, out at the time and dead at the time that Deadlock was officially unveiled, because it's been an open secret for a while. But yeah, people go in expecting a hero shooter. No, this is a MOBA. It's 100% a MOBA. You have 4 lanes. There are minions that go down each lane. You last hit these minions to get currency to buy items, which empower you.
Kris is describing hell.
I am describing your hell.
This is hell.
Yeah, no, it is a MOBA like all the others, except it is also a third-person shooter.
Oh, it's even
and
worse.
And you can schmoove.
Okay, slightly better, but still hell.
Fair enough. Now, what makes it stand out above all the rest is, again, the perspective is lowered. It's not just over the top kind of thing, like everything except, you know, Smite. Whereas Smite is still League of Legends, but the camera is down lower, right? This is not. This is very much like the actual shooting and movement and everything is very important, even if the bulk of what you are doing is still abilities and MOBA shit. But it manages to combine them in a really interesting way, and I ended up... like, I'm a Heroes of the Storm sicko, right? And so when I first started playing Deadlock, I'd play a game, go, this makes me want to play Heroes of the Storm. And then I'd go play Heroes of the Storm. And then I'd come back like 2 days later and play a round of Deadlock. And then go, Heroes of the Storm. That happened for a while, but then I found myself playing one every day, and then 2 every day, and on it goes. And I haven't played Heroes of the Storm in a few days, so that tells you. I know, shocking, right? So I've been playing a bunch of Deadlock, and it's really good, and I like it a lot. And I'm very curious to see how it goes in future as, more characters come out, as it properly, hits like a Nebulous 1.0 thing. Because it is really early development build, and it's kind of wild just how stupidly functional it is. But I just really like it.
Have you figured out why you like it yet? Or are you still working that out?
Still working it out. There's a ton of little nuances and mechanics to it that are all just really well designed. It's almost like they've looked at, Dota and other MOBAs for a while and just gone, okay, so how do we make these more interesting? How do we build on them in really good ways? And then how do we implement the third person shooting? How do we implement that very well? And there's so many little decisions in it that I really like and admire in how it encourages you to play, how it encourages you to, take risks and be rewarded for those risks. It's got a really good map with a lot of verticality, underground levels, different means of traversal and such, which just mean you can go back and forth a lot easier. It would take a very long time to go into it, but just I don't think there's anything in it that I just flat out hate. Everything about it is just really well designed in a way that makes me go, that's pretty good. That's very clever. And yeah, I'd have to go into it a lot over all of them, but it's just, like it has a better system of how you get currency and such by killing creeps than most of its contemporaries. Like it still has the idea of a last hit, but there's a brief, like if a minion dies, it has like a brief moment where it's at 0 health, but it's kind of fading away, and then you can still get a last hit in, so you get that extra chance. And then when you last hit something, it will then drop a soul, and a little glowing orb will appear out of it and fly upwards, and after a few seconds that will pop and you will get the currency. During that time, anyone can shoot it to secure it, including enemies. So that's how you do denial. So if you're on point, you can snipe all their souls and get a whole bunch of currency ahead of them and deny them. But if you go in and do a melee attack to do the last hit, that secures it and the soul is not released. You just get it instantly. So it encourages you to go in, to be mindful of that. And then, but other people can therefore take advantage of that because they know you're going to go in there, you're going to try and do that. Because you can also parry heavy melee attacks, which stuns the other guy. So it's just there's a little back and forth, as well as, are you shooting them? Are you meleeing them? Are you heavy meleeing them? Are you parrying the heavy melee? All these little things, in addition to all their abilities, because you still have, your standard 1, 2, 3, and then ultimate, and whatever else you have in terms of items, because there's a bunch of active items that can do all sorts of stuff. And and then once you get into it, it's like every little engagement is really interesting and back and forth and has a lot of potential. And it's really fucking cool.
Oh, yeah.
It's just really cool. That's all I got.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, if it's pretty easy nowadays to get, like, all you need to do is, get it. Anyone who is in can just invite anyone else on their Steam things. So there are like open Reddits and such where you can just go, hey, I want in, and then someone will hook you up. If you're interested or know somebody who is playing it, just ask them. They can hook you up. I highly recommend, if any of this sounds even vaguely interesting to you, if you have ever liked the MOBA in your life, give it a look. Genuinely a good time. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Okay. Am I
I also
next?
played a couple. You will be, but I will just say I played a couple of games with Timo and he fucking hated it.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think he liked it. He went in without doing any kind of practice or anything. It was just him and I, and we were on the NA servers, so both lagging, and it's like,
Oh no.
it didn't go well for the poor guy.
It's
I feel really
America's
bad.
fault.
But yeah.
I've never ever touched a MOBA in my life. And just conceptually, it feels like too
Stay
much
pure.
for me.
Stay away.
So it probably won't change, but it sounds interesting.
It's a good game. And if you're one of those sickos like me who does like MOBAs, then yeah. I'll never go as hard into it as I did for League of Legends or Heroes of the Storm, obviously, but like, it's a good time.
It's interesting. We hear a lot and talk a lot about how the ship has kind of sailed on a lot of these genres, like MOBAs
Yeah.
and hero shooters, um, and other stuff like that. And yeah, here's one coming out now. Not only like way down the line, but also at literally the same time another one came out and failed in a week.
Yeah, it's genuinely shocking.
Yeah.
I would not have
latched onto
expected it.
Yeah, and like part of that, I guess, is like the power that Valve still holds as like a brand, I guess.
Yeah, and they know how to make a good game. They know how to make the movement and shooting feel very good. You can tell. Like,
Yeah.
you can tell Valve is behind it.
So I just wonder if we'll continue to be hearing about Deadlock, or if it's one of those things where it's like it's got like a little bit of a little bump behind it, but then it like comes out for real, and then just disappears.
I think it's going to end up sort of like Dota 2 in that Dota 2 is still massively successful and has a huge player base, but a lot of them only play Dota 2.
Right.
Like, MOBAs in particular just get the most loyal, latched on fan base to it that will just, like, I think there's a great statistic. It's like when the beta for Overwatch happened, everyone looked at then the player numbers for every other game at the time. All of them dipped, except Dota 2 did not budge. It's just
like,
people who play Dota, and so I imagine people who play Deadlock play Deadlock. And, I think that's how it's gonna go down in the long run.
All right. I guess.
What you got, Lucas?
So, oh my God, there's a cat.
Sudden cat.
Does anyone here fuck with Danganronpa before I continue?
Yes.
Okay.
Only on the fringes. I know a little bit.
I have not played 3, but I played 1 and 2.
Okay. Cool.
I have 3, but it's another one of those weird fringe cases where I bought the Steam Deck being like, I'll finally be able to play this portably, and it's not supported.
Everything comes back to the Steam Deck.
It's true.
The Steam Deck is all. Brian is actually a living Steam Deck.
It's true. You guys can't tell because I have this beautiful facade just encrusted over my Steam Deck OLED screen.
Encrusted is an interesting word.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, that's a choice.
I mean, that's what happens. That's what happens when I have 2 Coke and vodkas.
Are you just a Full Metal Alchemist like fusion? Is that it? It's Brian.
Yes, you open up my chest plate. You open up my chest plate, and there the source, the alchemist stone, is there, or what is it? The philosopher's stone.
It's like Videodrome. Glad somebody else.
Anyway.
Yeah, so I bring up Danganronpa because the game that's eaten most of my time up the past week or two is Master Detective Archives : Rain Code Plus. So this is a game that's basically like the Danganronpa team getting back together for, I guess, maybe the first time since that series kind of ended. And if you're not familiar with Danganronpa, it was a visual novel for the PSP back in the day that was one of those death game gimmicks. So it's like battle royale, kind of like a bunch of high school kids are roped up into a room and there's some gimmick, and it's like, you need to kill each other because that's shocking and edgy. And there's a bear. And
Battle Royale is a great movie. I agree.
Battle Royale is a really good movie.
It's a good book too. Like the novel's actually really good. But anyways, like it was like kind of a cult thing. It was one of the, I think, early, maybe not early, but like it was right there in the middle of like visual novels finally becoming like popular over here. Um, and part of that was like the PSP version was never released, and it was actually some guy playing it and posting screenshots and translating it on Something Awful as he went, and people
Wow,
latched
something
onto that.
awful.
Yeah, people latched onto that. They're like, "Oh shit, this guy's playing this game that's like crazy, and there's a bear and it's killing people." Um, and then there was like this whole thing that was like you had to pay back in the day to be a member of Something Awful, and like their Let's Play forum was like
What
explicitly
a time!
yeah. Um, and this was happening at the same time Tumblr was starting to become a thing. So Danganronpa like bled out from Something Awful into Tumblr, and so it was just like this game that only one person was actually playing was becoming like a big deal. That was just kind of like a fascinating bit of background there. And
That is
eventually,
fascinating.
yeah, it comes out on the Vita later, and then it finally gets localized, but because of that. And then like visual novels become a thing, and now we have Fate Stay Night in English. It's fucked up that it's because of Something Awful that all these good things happen. Um, anyway, so Master Detective Archives is like their next thing, and it's you look at this game and you can tell it's by the same people that made the other thing, just because the art is very distinct.
I looked at a
It's
single
like,
screenshot when you mentioned this game, and I was like, I know that.
yeah, I don't have the person's name offhand, but their art style is very distinctive. It's like this is anime, but it's not anime. It's like put through like a very like kind of neon colored kind of punky filter that nothing else really looks like it. Um, and then the music is by the person who did the music for No More Heroes and Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth and a bunch of other cool shit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, their music is very distinct, and it's like more distinct in Danganronpa because the whole thing is about it being surreal and weird and not the whole time it's like you're playing something that's battle royale, but if like you can't tell if anything's real or not. It's kind of what I've been kind of building up to. Like all this stuff happens in that story, and it's portrayed visually in a way that just doesn't make any sense. While the story itself is pretty straightforward. An example I use in my review is this guy gets killed, and he's like a baseball player, and his death scene is like the bear makes a batting cage appear, and he's like strapped to the middle of it, and the bear just starts hitting baseballs and hits more and more baseballs really really fast, and the guy is just killed by thousands of baseballs.
Yeah.
And it makes
Which is very Danganronpa.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of like the first time the game does that, and it's just like the game presents it as if that's what happened, but at the same time it's like that's impossible. And then there's like other things that happen where it's like it's kind of like a Phoenix Wright kind of thing. So you're like solving the mystery basically by finding contradicting clues and everything. And like one of the sequences is like the guy's like surfing in outer space or something. It's like, okay, that's not real. You're like you're messing with the abstract to like show what's happening in this guy's mind, but you're making it like a cool video game thing, and you're just playing around. Um, all that to say that in this game, it does all of that, but it's all real. Um, so basically, you're doing detective work, and then crazy shit happens on the screen, and there's like a story explanation for like, oh no, the actual crazy shit is actually what's happening in front of you. It is the reality of the world that you're experiencing. Um, the setup is you are a detective, and you have lost your memories because you traded them to form a contract with a Shinigami, a death god, and it's this silly little purple ghost that follows you around and talks shit the whole time.
Because you need a mascot in these games.
Yeah, it's very similar to the bear, except it's like your partner, but it's still like just a deranged, awful thing that's like
The bear,
just
excuse
having
me?
a
You
great
mean
time.
Monokuma? Come on.
Monokuma.
Put
yeah,
some
yeah.
respect on this evil tyrant's
should.
name.
We
This,
love
this
Monokuma
conversation
in
is
this house.
entirely too weeb for me.
It is.
Yeah.
Fucking weeb, he said as he stabbed the other weebs in the
That's
back.
true.
Yeah.
The only
He's
thing
got
that I
talk
can
about
think of
Dragon
now
Ball.
is like you sold your soul for like a thing. It's like I can think of that bit from the Blues Brothers where it's like you sold the Blues Mobile. Yeah, I traded it for a microphone. Makes sense.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Where's the
anyways,
caddy?
this detective character doesn't have any memories, so he's like, I'm a detective. Well, I don't know what I'm doing.
Do you think how many? Okay, so Lucas, how dead do you think you'd be on a scale of 1 to 10? Right, like
Mhm.
10 being like the Kennedy assassination, right? Like the deadest any person has ever been, right?
brains
If
On
you
a
had to
scale of
take it-
1 to the Kennedy assassination.
on a scale of like, I may have accidentally ingested some rat poison to like the Kennedy assassin. There's a little bit of rat poison, right? Like an uncomfortable throw up amount of rat poison, but enough to kill you. Like if we put all the games that you personally have played where the protagonist had amnesia and you had to take a shot of your liquor of choice for every single one that had amnesia, how dead do you think you'd be?
Probably pretty dead. I mean, that's a very. I wouldn't even call that a weeb thing. That's just like the thing that people fall on.
No, I didn't say it was a weeb thing. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, how dead do you think? Like, I would be super dead.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Amnesia, yeah. It's silly and like I'll get
I think the
into it
Rune
in a
Factory
second.
series alone would kill me.
Yeah. But here it's like it's a big mystery box. It's like, oh, he's got amnesia to have this ability, but like why did he agree with it in the first place? Anyway, so what happens is you're a detective, but you don't know how to be a detective, and you keep getting in situations where there's like a gun in your face, and then it's like, help me, Shinigami, and it's like, okay, and it summons this portal, and you get bumped into the portal, and then the little fuzzy purple ghost turns into like a hot goth lady with a scythe.
Hell
and,
yeah.
and she starts like vomiting keys, and she summons a giant castle, and it looks like just an insane like collage of colors and nonsense. And it's like, okay, you can't actually do your detective work, so I have turned the mystery in its totality into a dungeon. This is the mystery labyrinth, and you have to go in here with my crazy death god powers to solve the mystery. And it's very silly and over the top. Um, it's Danganronpa in the fullest extent, except it's all real. Like the stuff that's happening to the character, there he's actually experiencing it. So it's sort of like a different angle on the shtick. And a lot of it is just very silly. It's like to have your like Phoenix Wright style logic battles, you're actually like fighting a demon looking kind of thing, and you've got a sword, and they spit text at you, and it's like, oh, this is the contradiction. So you take the clue and you swing your sword at the contradiction, and it's like pretty straightforward. It's just like all this crazy nonsense happening on the screen.
So instead of saying on guard, you say objection. Got it.
Yeah, pretty much. There's other stuff where it's like, oh, it's time to do a different kind of puzzle. So the Shinigami, suddenly you're on a beach and she's in a swimsuit and she's in a barrel, and you're throwing knives at the barrel to like there's like letters spinning around it, and you have to like, it's like something something blank something something. So it's like, oh, what is the word? I got to figure it out in the time limit, and then I got to hit the right letters while it's spinning. And then she bursts out of the barrel and fires a fucking laser beam from her face and blows up whatever the obstacle is. It's that kind of thing where it's just like, how can we just make this as goofy and ridiculous as possible? And it's somehow all ties
Congratulations,
into
they
solving the
succeeded.
mystery. Yeah, pretty much. And the sort of rub here, all the silly stuff aside, is when you solve the mystery, you get to the end, you figure out who the culprit is. Uh, their soul is now forfeit to Shinigami, so she basically like ices them right there. Um, and it kind of turns into this thing where the main character, who's very, he's got amnesia, he kind of looks like a child, he's very naive about it. He's like, oh, I'm gonna be the detective, I'm gonna help people, I'm gonna be the hero. And then it's like, oh shit, no, I just killed somebody. And every single time it's like, okay, I have to rely on these powers to solve this situation that's really bad, because as wacky as the stuff in the dungeon is, all the characters are also way over the top and crazy, and the bad guys are some fucking sicko degenerates, to put it lightly. So it's usually like, okay, situation is bad. There is a justifiable reason to get involved with the case. But oh crap, I have no choice. Now I have to go into this thing, and I know I'm about to like add to the body count. So it kind of gets into the stuff about like the truth and what does it mean to find the truth. What is the value of finding the truth? Is it actually a good thing to uncover the truth if it's just going to like hurt more people by the end of it? That's kind of like the thing it gets into. And in a lot of cases, it's kind of interesting. Like there's one where it's like you get involved with this high school where there's like really nasty like battle over lead roles and the drama team, and someone ends up dying, and then someone else dies, and that's when you get involved, and then it like turns out that like it's like a really um, upsetting like revenge plot where it's like everyone involved was getting revenge for the first person that was killed, and then by the end of the case it's like, well, oh shit, I don't actually like, these aren't bad people, they just made a bad choice because someone they really cared about got hurt. And then it's like, fuck, now I've just killed 3 more people because I was trying to help in the first place. And it's like, it's pretty heavy when it gets to stuff like that. And then much like the Persona 3 DLC, this game decides it needs to be 40 fucking hours long, and it just runs out of steam real bad. And like there's a whole case where it's like I just played that and I feel like it just didn't, like, it could have not been there and the story would have been fine without it. There's like a whole overworld where you're like running around this very beautiful neon cyberpunk city where it's always raining and everything, but I'm just running from point A to point B and not really like interacting with anything or learning anything or getting anything out of this. There's side quests where it's basically just run to talk to this person, now run to talk to this person, and they tell you some stuff, and it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, man, the Danganronpa thing happened. It was such a like niche, unlikely thing, and then it blows up and becomes a thing. And they're aware that it's kind of a thing because like the third game is about like running something cool into the ground, basically. So it was clear like the creators were like, man, we don't want to just make fucking Danganronpa games anymore, or like all the time. So we'll try something else. But at the same time, it's like they're making a new video game, and it's the 20, the late 2010s, and everything has to be long and padded out to hell and back, and it's just like exhausting because it's like one moment I'm having fun because this demon lady is like puking and there's pink blood everywhere, and it's like, oh, this is so cool, and like she has to like slit his throat with her scythe to spew blood all over the wall to reveal the question prompt. So then you have to like find the right answer, and then it's just, I would have loved this game if it was 10-15 hours less of it. you know
Get
I would have
in,
liked you
make
more
its
if there
point,
were
get
less
out.
of you.
Yeah. And then it's like it's got this really interesting question about like the truth, but it also can't help itself. It's got to be wacky and over the top and throw in a bunch of other stuff, and then it starts going into like sci-fi and there's zombies, and I'm just like, stop. you know, like
Focus.
you're jumping the shark in such a way that just undermines all the interesting things that were happening before. Um, and then like even though by the end I think it finds some emotional resonance, it's just like I was so ready for it to be over. Um, yeah, it's
That's
weird.
rough.
Yeah, because like uh, not to be that person, but I had the whole backstory of like Danganronpa being on something awful and stuff. Like that game was so cool when it came out. It was like really edgy, and like it had this I had already been done watched Battle Royale and stuff at that point, but there was still just like a tension to it that really made, I think, like when you have the wacky stuff and you have the like questionable reality and you have the legitimate tension and everything just kind of works together on that smaller scale where you get something that just nails its concept right out the gate.
Yeah.
And then of course you have to do it again. And then you have to make it wackier and sillier and more tongue in cheek. And you have to come up with more and more gimmicks to pile on top of it. And then finally you get to do something else. And it's interesting that you get, like, I appreciate the fact that they got to do something new with the stuff they were kind of fucking with without having to just do that first thing again. So it's like iteration, but in a different space, and you get to kind of like twist the thing around to look at it from a different angle. But it still feels like there was too much, and that's kind of a bummer. But I still gave it an 8 out of 10. So I sound really down on it. At the same time, like all the crazy shit happening and just having it be like kind of diegetic instead of metaphor-y.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is what did you like? Obviously it ran out of steam, but like, was it still worth it for the highlights and the high points and everything? And it sounds like it was to a point.
Yeah. One thing I touched on in the review is just like, as much as there were times where I was like, or I don't like where the story is going, or I think this is just too much, or it's wasting my time. Whenever there was stuff happening, I still wasn't bored at all. Just like all the zany stuff was just hitting perfectly. Like it piecemeals that out really effectively. Dungeons themselves don't overstay their welcome. Like when you're actually like in there and you're solving a case, it's so fun to fuck around with and just have, even when it repeats gags, it's still just like, oh, it's still just letting it wash over me is really fun. And then you go out and it goes into like the stuff where the game just has to keep coming up with reasons to keep going for as long as it's decided it needed to go. And that stuff's really bummed me out. So yeah, I landed on 8. I think like the people who have been enjoying the shit for as long as it's been going on probably will love this still. But I think like if it kind of ran out of steam for you before, I don't think this will do a ton to like rejuvenate it. And then there's like a middle ground in there somewhere where I think I'm sitting, where it's like, I appreciate a lot of what this was doing. There's other stuff about it that was a real bummer. And by the end, it's like, I think I had a really good time. And I think it was still very memorable, which counts for a lot. I just like, I can see the vision in a different like universe where all that stuff that like the stuff that was bad or I didn't really like didn't need to be there, and I feel like it still would have been complete and told a more interesting story for it. I can see that. It's frustrating.
Just needed an editing pass.
Yeah, exactly. But then it's like, do you tell the Danganronpa people no at this point? I guess not. I don't know. They've got clout.
You got to. If people needed to tell George Lucas no, you can tell the Danganronpa people no.
What they didn't, right? Wasn't that the whole thing?
Yeah, no, they didn't, and that was the problem.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, some of them actually did, but he was extremely good at manipulating them to make them do it anyway. Like there's stories about that, that have come up more recently. It's like, oh, no. He kind of knew how to get his way anyway. So it wasn't all just yes men. There was a lot of yes men, but it wasn't all just that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is dangerous. Because it's like we talk so much about creativity being stifled. And then there's like the other side of it where it's like not stifled enough.
Yeah. Creativity shouldn't be stifled, but it should be edited. There is a difference between those two.
Yeah. Good friends will get along with you, but your best friends will push back when you're headed in the wrong direction. It's hard. It is hard to find people who are willing to do that and dig in and tell you, hey, you are wrong here. And you really need to think about what you are doing. It is hard to be the person who does that, but those are like the most valuable people. Once you find those people in your lives, keep them close because those people are really good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. A number of years ago, I wrote a short story and I got it in a magazine. And I was kind of handing it to friends and being like, hey, I need some eyeballs on this. And most of the people I handed it to only came back with like grammar stuff. They were like, here's some grammar stuff. And I was like, I don't want that. I want you to be like mean to the rest of it. I want you to comment on the
Talk about the ideas. Yeah.
everything else besides the grammar stuff. It was very frustrating. And it's like, the people are just trying to be nice. They're trying to be helpful and be nice at the same time. And it's like, no, it's not actually helpful. And then you get the two people who do like sit there and like, have a conversation with the actual shit that you wrote. And then that's when you end up with the better stuff on the other side of it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mm.
So what was the name of that game? Just for posterity?
God, I'm so sick of typing this out and saying it. It almost sucks as bad. Master Detective Archives Rain Code Plus. It's called Plus because it came out on the Switch a year ago or something. And now it's on consoles that can actually run it.
Yeah, I did hear about this game a while back, so I was surprised that it was being talked about now. So
it
makes
is
sense.
absolutely gorgeous. It looks great. I played it on PS5, ran smoothly. I even remote played it some. I would probably have been like, I can't fucking do this if I played it on Switch because it's the greatest hits of games that can't actually run on the Switch but are exclusive for no reason. So like fuzzy resolution, bad frame rate, all the stuff that it's like
the standard hallmarks.
Yeah. Can't ignore it. I'm sorry.
Good stuff.
Love the Switch, but yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Will,
We'll
I
get a
don't think
Switch
you've
too
been
eventually.
up yet this episode.
No, you guys have been talking a lot.
What you got, fam?
What do I got?
More
I got the
Weeb?
original Silent Hill 2.
Oh, never mind.
Because I was gonna say, yeah, I know what you want to talk about. We can't talk about yet, but
Y'all gaslit me for 20 fucking years. Everyone was like, this is the peak of survival horror. It's this right here.
Now, I will say,
right here.
I did not gaslight you. I'm innocent.
No.
People
No, Brian simply
Just
girl bossed
innocent
me.
men.
But the rest of you gaslit me.
Wait, I girl bossed you?
You girl bossed me. I do not appreciate
You know what? I'll take it. If I gotta
Yamaoka
pick
was
those two, I definitely came out ahead on that one.
That man
Listen.
knows how to do stuff with a guitar. That's all.
Okay, listen, there were people out there, right? In the year of our Lord, 2024. We're like, nah, bro, the gameplay is bad on purpose.
The year of Luigi.
Like, motherfucker, no. It is not there to tell you how much of a loser James is. It is there because it's bad. It is simply not very good. Like, that game plays so badly. It is difficult. I'm not here to, I didn't go into Silent Hill 2 being like, I can't wait for these people to be wrong so I can shit on it on the podcast. Like, I was genuinely hoping, like September to November is sacred time in this house. It is horror central, baby. I don't know, you guys probably can't see this, but like, there's pumpkins everywhere that Kira has put up. We got all kinds of shit.
It's Spooktober, baby.
It's Spooktober. There's literally like a big ass pile of games that you guys can't see that's just like all horror shit back there, where it's like, this is what we're doing, right? And there's horror films, like, this evening before the podcast was Hill House rewatch. There is a love for horror in this house, right? I wanted it to be the thing that all of y'all told me it was. And it ain't. It's not. This is gaslighting on the level of Uncharted 1 is good. Like, no, it's not.
That bad?
It's it's not even bad, right? It's just kind of mid, right? Like, because it's like, oh, all right, well, I'll give you this. Visuals hold up real good. Good atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
There's some cool writing choices in Silent Hill 2. Okay, sure, yes. I'm with you. I called the twist 30 minutes in.
It's true, I can confirm.
My wife also called the twist 30 minutes in. I did not. I was talking to these guys. I did not tell her. I was like, Kira, I think he done did it. Listen. Also, spoilers for Silent Hill 2. Like, it's 20 fucking years old.
Yeah.
If you don't want to hear it and you're going into the remake fresh or something, tune out now.
It's too late. So
Listen, hold on. All right.
He didn't say what
Take
he
this-
done did. He just said he done did it.
I mean,
come on,
listen.
come
Nobody else
on,
talk.
Lucas. Our listeners are not idiots. Come on.
Before you upload this, just take the bit I'm saying right now. If you haven't heard anything about Silent Hill 2, if you want to go into the remake fresh, and put that in front of what I said.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, he done did it. That motherfucker killed his wife. I was close on the method, too. I thought he was going to strangle her, but no, he smothered her with a pillow. And, like, the whole town, right? Like, everything. Like, Maria is like, brother, this is, like, wife, not wife. And this is about your guilt and your trauma. And, like, that you have blocked this out. Right? And that's the whole town. And credit to Silent Hill 2. I think it's really cool that all the monster designs, whole story is about, like, James's issues, right? That's awesome. You don't see a game, like, really do that with its protagonist.
Isn't this the game where there's like all the faceless, really hot nurses?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And okay, so aside from twist is very obvious. It's actually, like, performed really well. The reading of the letter at the beginning is heartbreaking. Like, and at the end, when you see the whole letter, and you're like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool that it has multiple endings that are different depending on, excuse me, what you actually do. Like, there are endings where it's like, oh, you didn't heal. You probably want to die. That's probably actually the best one, honestly. In Water is what I'm talking about. And then there's one where, like, you're just, like, very close with Maria, like, you get a different ending. That's cool, right? Like, endings in the game that you don't, like, you know, go up to a door and press a button, right? Pick a color, Mass Effect style.
Not Mass Effect, yeah.
Not Mass Effect 3. So there's a lot of cool things in Silent Hill 2, but it's predictable. It's not particularly original. Like, I know everyone's like, oh my god, it's so mature, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm sorry, I've read a book. I've seen this before.
Isn't there a fucking Bruce Willis movie that has like a kind of similar plot to that?
Probably. Listen, and in fairness to Team Silent, right? Like, all their inspirations for Silent Hill 2 are not other video games. Like, awesome. Do more of that, please. But, like,
The devs read books. That's
yeah, the devs read books, and props to them. And I think part of the problem is, like, there is no game that could be what Silent Hill 2 is gassed up to be. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Where people are like, it is the pinnacle, and it's like, brother, it is a PS2 game.
Yeah.
It has
It's
maybe
a PS2
4
game
things.
that doesn't play super well.
Yeah, it has maybe 4 things on a screen at any time, and it's funny because it's bad at the stuff survival horror is supposed to be good at. Right? Survival horror is like managing your resources.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you run away from these dudes. Right? So we didn't play it on, like, super high difficulty, right?
Yeah, Resident Evil
Wait,
2
oh my-
is, like, much better gameplay-wise in that regard.
Oh, yeah. But, like, you get the pipe, right? Like, you get the metal, it's like a 2x4 and it's got nails on it.
Bonk everything with it.
And you just, like,
You're good.
you are killing everything, man. And it's like, oh, it's supposed to be scary. And it's like, dude, I'm beating everything in this town to death with a 2x4. Nothing scares me. And then you get a gun, and it's like, all right, well, it's over now. Like, before I had to get close to him. Now it's just like, hello, yes, I have a shotgun. Why don't you just come over here? Thank you.
Which, like, yeah, I know somebody out there is probably like, that's the point. Don't you see? He's a killer. Don't you see? Like, that's what they were trying to say. It's not scary. He's not helpless.
But, like, he is, though, because James is a loser, which is, like, the other point. Like, oh, Riley spotted. James is a dork. Like, he is a loser in every possible way. He's like, Oh, it's too hard to take care of my sick wife. Okay, well.
Mhm.
And then, like, blocks it out and, like, goes and does this whole thing. And it's really funny because at some points he's lecturing, like, the other characters on, like, the right thing to do. And it's like, dude,
It's rich.
every jury would convict you, James. All of them.
Pot, kettle, black.
Pot,
Yeah.
kettle. And I get it. It's his, like, journey through his repressed memories. There's some symbolism in here. Like, the historical society is neat, where you're, like, constantly going down, like, man, I wonder what that's supposed to symbolize in a way that you can't actually go down anymore. Like, non-Euclidean space. I wonder what that means. Or, like, you know, where you're in the hotel, and then the hotel's, like, nice, and then you go do some more stuff in the hotel, and then it's, like, really shitty and, like, dilapidated, and it's like, oh, right? And those things are neat, but once it starts playing with those ideas, the game is basically over because it's 5 hours.
Right.
And so you spend a lot of it, like, with too much ammo, too strong, nothing is scary. And if you call the twist 30 minutes in, like with my wife and I did, because master's degree, fiction writer, you know, like, it's like, all right, man, like, I hope you play it out well. And it does play out well, but it's just, I wanted it to at least play well, and it doesn't.
Mhm.
And, like, if you play this game now, like, the puzzles are cool, puzzles are well designed, but, like, the act of getting into combat in Silent Hill 2 is like flossing your teeth. Is a thing that you have to do. Nobody's excited about it. It takes longer than it should. Sometimes you, like, you know, bleed a little bit because you haven't flossed in a few days. You know, like, that was stupid. Why did I do that? That's like when you get hit by one of the nurses. There's no enemy variety. You know, there's too many guns. There's
If
too
you got
much
big
ammo.
fingers, it's just like tedious.
Yeah, it's just tedious. And that's the thing, right? Like, horror at its best, right, is about what scares us, and that's never a monster. It's never like a vampire or a werewolf or a sexy nurse or whatever, right? Like, it's
what they represent always.
yeah, it's like deep psychological trauma. Like, Dracula is not about a vampire. It's really not. Like, yes, it is about a vampire, but, like, there's societal, like, anxieties that Bram Stoker was, like, you know, playing with when he wrote that story.
Mhm.
Hill House is not about a haunted house. I mean, it is, but it's not, right? Like, it's about this family of people who is deeply traumatized by this series of events. And you could argue that the house probably isn't even haunted. You know, because, like, you watch it and it's like, oh, it's a lot of black mold, huh? That'll make you a turf. Probably
Yep.
make you see
Yeah,
things too.
yeah.
So, again, like, I don't want to dunk on Silent Hill 2. Like, I think it's fine. I think it's really, it's fine, right? But I think the problem is, like, we need to be a little less sacred with our sacred cows and be honest about what they are. Like, if you love Silent Hill 2 because you're like, I love the story, I think the writing's really cool, I think the puzzles are awesome, but don't sit here and gaslight me for 20 years about, like, oh yeah, the combat is saying something deeper. Like, fuck out of here. It's bad. I could just play Resident Evil, bro. Like, Fatal Frame is right there. Come on.
Yeah.
You don't have to play badly in that era. You don't. There's no excuse for this. So I played Silent Hill 2, and I'm glad that I did. I really am glad that I did. I actually do want to kind of go play the remake, because I've heard some things about it that make me want to be like, ooh, that could be cool.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it, which is surprising to literally everybody.
Yeah, I think I think everybody's surprised. I think, like, Bloober Team is surprised that people like it so much. I think they're probably, like, you know, they released that game, they're probably deeply traumatized, like, oh god, not again, please. Please, we have Silent Hill 2. This time, surely this time. I'm sure Konami was sitting there like, it's gotta work this time, right? You know, but, like, it's been really well received, and a lot of people I know who are really big into Silent Hill 2 are telling me, like, it's awesome. Sure, okay, awesome. But I think the original game would really benefit from, and I think the medium as a whole from that era would really benefit from, no, these games play kind of badly. A lot of them.
Honesty.
Yeah, and just being like, listen, it's great for its era. But, like, Silent Hill 2, having played it, I understand why people wanted the remake, because playing it sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it's a miserable experience to play that game. Unless you're doing puzzles.
It's tricky because when in these sorts of situations, it's like, okay, you can either stay true to the original experience, or you can try to make the experience better, which is unfortunately going to make it worse for some people. Like there are some people who are like, yeah, I have nostalgia for the way that this plays, even if it's bad. Because I know that like Resident Evil and some other games like that have tweaked kind of how the gameplay is to update it with like the more modern versions. And there is, you know, a sentiment going around that like something is lost in the translation. I mean, look at like every PS5 remake that's happened. Whether you lose something aesthetically, you lose something gameplay wise, whatever. Like I get that. It's hard, but like in these sorts of situations, it's like, but I mean, come on, you gotta do something.
Yeah.
Like port it and remake it. You know what I mean? Like give people options.
And I think that's part of it too, right? Is like Silent Hill has had this myth built around it, and I can't speak to 1 and I can't speak to 3. I played a little bit of 1. I thought the atmosphere was like way creepier than 2.
2 is the one everybody puts on the pedestal, though.
Yeah. But 2 is the one. And then it's funny because I played it and I told a bunch of my friends, I was like, I'm not feeling it, guys. Like I don't regret playing it, but it's not hitting me the way that I know it's hitting some of you. And they're like, actually, we really like 3. You should try 3. And I'm like, 3 is a sequel to 1. I have to play 1 first. Like, you guys couldn't have just told me this from the get-go. Save me some time.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, I'll go back and play 1. I want to see the rest of it. Like, I'm not going to judge the rest of the series based on my experience with 2. And I think there's value in it. Certainly is a historical artifact, right?
Yeah.
And something that is deeply meaningful to people. But, like, we really do need to be honest about this. And I think part of it is that, like, we are so bad, especially in games are so bad at, like, preserving what the game actually is. Like, you can't really go play Silent Hill 2. You got to go spend, like, money. Like, money. You want a PS2 copy. I bought a original Xbox copy for, like, $60. If you're looking for an original copy of Silent Hill 2, Restless Dreams on the original Xbox is the way to go, fam. But, like, if that game were so widely available, I don't think it would have the same reverence that it does. Because, like, a lot of games that are widely available don't get to have that. Resident Evil 4 is on every platform known to man, and that game gets to keep its reverence because it's Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
But, like...
Which I'm going to circle back to that in a second.
I don't know, man. I think it's fine. Like, I really did not come here to be like Silent Hill 2 is terrible and has no redeeming qualities, because I don't think that's true. But I do wish that people had, like, approached it from a reasonable perspective. And I can't tell you how many times this has happened to me where people are like, it's so great, you haven't played the genre unless you played this. And I go in and I'm like,
it's fine. Yeah.
It's fine. I love that you love it.
Probably have missed or never touched like 3 or 4 alternatives that may or may not be like, you know, part of the conversation.
Or probably haven't seen the inspirations for Team Silent, you know, like the actual non-games, as you mentioned. Because so much of the big thing I asked you at the beginning of, or when you were going through it, was like, so is this just a case of, you know, capital G gamers don't read? And we're kind of in agreement with that. It's like, it's not that anything about it is bad. It's just not necessarily so new and original and fresh in anything except the medium it is built. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
which I think would have been way more notable when it came out than now.
And that's the other thing too. Like I'm very aware that I'm coming to this 20 years late, but I want to hear what Lucas has to say.
Well, it's just we've had this conversation before when we talk about like Final Fantasy VII and Persona 5 and stuff. It's like people have the formative experience, especially in games, and then they just stop.
Yeah. And you know, like, I guess the coolest thing for me about Silent Hill 2 now is I can look at all the things that reference Silent Hill 2 and be like, oh, I know that.
Yeah.
Right? So I played Silent Hill 2. And it really just like, and then I started playing Crimson Butterfly again, and it was like, this is way better. Let's go play Fatal Frame. Go play Crimson Butterfly. Go play Eternal Darkness. If Silent Hill 2 is the peak of your survival horror experience from that era, and you haven't played those games, like, I'm not telling you, like, you're a bad person for liking Silent Hill 2 and it's shit. What I am telling you is, like, if you haven't played those games, go play them. Like, I think you might have a different opinion when you get out of it.
Yeah. So,
if you like that game, you might enjoy other games like it.
Could just be enriched by trying other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, to touch on what Lucas was saying earlier, about, like, you know, people who have nostalgia for these sorts of games, playing that and then stopping. So that is a thing where we are not uniquely privileged, but like what we do for work, we do not have that luxury. We cannot stop. We cannot rest on nostalgia. We are always playing new things. We are always playing different things. And because we do that, a lot of times we will chase novelty in different ways, which is why I'm such an evangelist for indie games, because they're doing interesting things that haven't been done before. So yeah, like Will is saying, like Lucas is saying, like don't rest on your gaming laurels. Get out there, try some new stuff. You know, when the Switch came out, I decided I like put out there, I was like, there are a lot of weird Nintendo franchises I have just never played. Whenever a new one comes out, I'm going to try it. Even if I don't like it, even if I feel like it was a waste of $60, I'm going to try it. And now I know. And I have more verbs. I have more things in my toolkit that I can use to talk about things. And that's definitely true for horror games. And one of the things I wanted to circle back on, you mentioned Eternal Darkness. That is my friend Josh, who I used to do a horror movie podcast called Dark Corridors with. That's his favorite horror movie or horror game of all time. Eternal Darkness on the GameCube, which is another one that's like not available now, which means that, you know, that could be rose-colored glasses as well. Speaking of recent releases,
just saying,
we have, you know, so many people were like, man, we don't have MVC2. We don't have Marvel vs. Capcom 2 available on modern platforms. I play the collection. I like Marvel Superheroes and versus Street Fighter, and I like Children of the Atom more than that. So it's like, you know, there is a lot to be like, we really need to re-examine these things as the ages go on. You know, you talk about, you know, what Chris's colleague, you know, is making with, you know, most acclaimed games. Look back and look at like what people are saying about these games. Ocarina of Time is not the best Zelda game, like straight up, but it's one of the best reviewed games of all time because of the time. And if you revisit that now, it's like you're going to have different thoughts, and you need to do that. You need to go back and check in on these sorts of things. I went back and played Persona 3. That game fucking kicks ass. Like, I still think the same thing I did before, as Will said, before I even beat the game. It was better than Persona 4 and 5. And now that I've beaten it, it's way better than those other two games. But that's only because I played it now, and I can actually speak to that.
Yeah, I think we got to be better, like not just us as critics, right? Like, because we all work in this business as like critics and writers and people who are, you know, covering what the business does. I think we got to be better in terms of that, but I think we also got to be better like as fans of a medium, or like as enjoyers of me. I don't like the word fan. As someone who appreciates like an art form, right? Like
it means fanatics, which like if you're doing that, you've already gone too far. So like,
I don't like the connotation there. But I was talking to a friend of mine who also works in the business, and I'm not doing this to shame him. And we were talking, and I said, you know, you got to, and Lucas was there for this conversation. It was on Discord. And I said, you know, you got to go play the old stuff because it'll make you a better critic. And he was like, I'm too busy with the new stuff. Like, I can barely keep up with that. And I get it. Like, if you're working in this business, like, you are just constantly playing things. And you don't have time to, like, go back and
play everything.
Play games from 20 years ago. But I think if you're really wanting to, like, understand, like, a niche, right? Like, if you really, like fighting games are my thing, you know. I really love old JRPGs. Like, I love old action games, like, that kind of stuff. Like, if I really want to understand those genres and be able to write about them, I have to go back and play stuff. Or horror, right? Like, I have to play Fatal Frame. I have to play Silent Hill. I have to play Eternal Darkness, a game that never got a sequel, right? I have to go play Siren. I have to go play, you know, the new stuff too, like Signalis. I have to go play
or what is it? What is it? The game with all the white goo on the cover. Evil Within 2.
Epic Mickey.
Yeah, you got to play Evil Within. You got to. Yeah, it was a spooky ghost.
Yeah, you know, everybody just blasting ropes on Mickey. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But seriously, like, you got to play Resident Evil, right? Like, you don't have to play all of them, but like, just play some of them, you know. And like, when you do that, you'll not only become better able to articulate why you like things. This was one of the things I learned, like, as a writer, was like, criticism helps me figure out why I like stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Because it's not only like me doing it for somebody else, it's me doing it for myself and figuring out, how do I feel? Yeah. Why do I feel the way I feel? And the more you expand your toolbox and expand your knowledge base, like you're gonna understand the way you feel better. And I really had to sit down and like think of why I think Fatal Frame is scary. And I realized it's because if you want to play the game like the way it wants you to play it, you have to let the ghosts get close to you.
Yeah.
Like you have to. And you have
That
to hit
was
them at the right moment, right? The fatal frame. And that's what makes it scary. You have to be patient.
you have to ride that line. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a moment, you know, something you said I want to highlight for our listeners. For a long time, like I don't know what the average person, I've been a critic for so long, I don't know what the average person thinks criticism is. But for a long time, the deepest I would go, like when I was a kid, because I've been playing games since I was like 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, it would just be like, I like this, I don't like this, this is really cool, this kind of sucks, whatever. It wasn't until I dove into, you know, what Will was talking about, which is, why doesn't this work? Why does this work? What would need to change to make this work? What would you take away from this? What would you add to this? That I really started to think about games in a different and more complete way. That helped, like Will said, to inform what I would go after and like stuff I would pick up on when I was checking out new games, where I'd be like, I feel like this is going to resonate with me, or like, this game does the thing that I don't like. I'm just going to call it now. You know, knowing that about yourself helps you to engage in discussions with other people, and it also helps to save you some time. Like with, it's the same way that like when I was a kid, I would lie about things like, oh, did you see that movie? Yeah, absolutely. Because I wanted to be cool. I wanted to come across as like knowledgeable and cool to other people. And it wasn't until I realized, oh no, if I'm honest, I'll get more information. If I'm honest about how I feel and about the way that I interact with things, I'll repel the people who don't like me for who I really am, and I'll attract the people who really do. And it's the same for games. If you find out what you really feel and what you really like and what works for you and what doesn't, it's going to help you really find great stuff and stay away from stuff that you're not going to like.
Yeah, Hemingway has this really great part. I think it's the first chapter of Death in the Afternoon, which is about bullfighting. And he's writing about, you know, the bullfight as an institution. And, you know, he's like, I think that the first line is, the first time I went to a bullfight, I expected to be horrified and sickened by what I was told would happen to the horses. And if you've never, you know, if you're not familiar with like the history of the Spanish bullfight, like the horses would get killed and they'd get disemboweled. And, you know, he went and he was like, actually, I don't mind it at all. And part of the part of that chapter is not whether bullfighting is good or bad. It's kind of like you got to experience stuff for yourself to figure out if you like it, right? You can't just be told like, oh, this is good. And I think games really especially have this problem of like people want to seem knowledgeable and so they'll lie, or they will like kind of like bandwagon like, oh yeah, everybody thinks this one's good, it must be good, right? And if we think about like what we like versus what we're supposed to like, or how we think we're gonna feel, like you're gonna be a lot happier, A, and B, you're gonna understand why things work and why you like the things that you like and what you look for. And then, you know, people are like, I've gotten really good at determining if I'm gonna like a game by watching trailers for it, like absurdly good at it. People are like, how can you do that? You're not even giving it a chance. I'm like, listen, at this point, I'm 34 years old. I've been playing these games for a long time. I've played hundreds, if not thousands of them. I know what mechanics are. I know what I like.
Yeah.
And I know what is and is not going to give me what I want. And that's okay, right? That doesn't mean, and what I'm not saying is be closed-minded. Don't try new things. Like, absolutely try new things. You're going to be wrong sometimes, you know, and it's those times where you like go out on a limb and you're like, that might be cool. Maybe I'll try that, right? Yeah. But also don't be afraid to be like, I don't like this one. Like, I remember, like, the first time I think I played God of War 1. And I thought it was terrible. This was, like, at release. Because it came out the same year as Ninja Gaiden. So I thought it was terrible. I still think God of War 1 is terrible. It does not play well. It's a neat story. Doesn't play well. And I went several years without playing any more God of War games because I was like, I think God of War is terrible. And I played 3 and I was like, oh, I like this, actually. It was cool. I like the changes that they've made, right? So like don't push yourself out of something. Like, be willing to try stuff, but like develop that thought of like, this is what I like, and if you follow that, you're gonna be happier. But really quickly, it did hold up. Sparking Zero, I got to review for Shack News. And
wait, hold on. Okay, hold on. I love that segue. I had another.
And now
thing.
you're gonna take it away from me.
I am gonna take it away from you. I'm very sorry.
You're a bitch. I hate you.
So about that, what Will is saying, he was spitting right here. And what I will say is, when you're going out there and you're checking things out, I have the same experience, which is I can watch a trailer and be like, this is for me or this is not for me. And when you go out there, it's a win-win, because if you're wrong, you get something cool that you get to experience that you didn't think you would. And if you're right, then you get a little more fuel for, let me trust my instincts when I go to these sorts of things. And I
understand my mindset.
That's really, really valuable. Both sides of that are really valuable. But before we left, what I wanted to do is, because Silent Hill 2 was not everything that it was cracked out to be, I wanted to, because it is October, I wanted to do a very, very quick, very high, like highest recommended horror games from each of us. Just real quick, so that if they're not going to play Silent Hill 2, here's some shit that you can do.
Okay, this is going to be hard because I'm going to have to do this off the top of my head. So you guys start, and I'm going to go look at my big-ass pile.
I will start. So I will say Dead Space 1. I bounced off of that because that shit was horrifying. And then I went back and replayed it. I had to try it like 2 or 3 times because that was like really spooky. But it's awesome. Dead Space 1 is really fantastic. And it's been remade. I haven't played all of the remake. I just played a little bit of it. It looks gorgeous. I don't know if it's like better or worse or whatever. I think that they did like some of the annoying like turret sections are better in the remake, but I haven't actually played them.
They are.
Yeah. That was my big annoyance with the first one. That's the only reason why I didn't actually platinum Dead Space 1, is because I got to that turret section on like the hardest difficulty, and I was just like, fuck this. I'm done.
All right. Turret sections indeed suck, but we've got a lot of games to list, and I want to talk about Sparking. So keep going.
Oh, fuck.
Are we just round robining this bitch?
All right.
Yeah.
All right, I got one.
I'll come back to it.
This one comes with asterisks because it's weeb shit.
Oh my god.
You mix weeb shit and horror, and you go to some places you don't want to be in sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be completely honest about that. But Corpse Party is the first thing that came to mind.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
It's a game on the PSP. It's on a bunch of other things now, but the first hit on the PSP is a remake of an old RPG Maker game. So it's got cutesy little sprites. But this game does absolutely disgusting, horrible things with sound design. And sometimes just sound. So through sound and voice acting, and oftentimes a black screen, this game is nasty. And it's really effective. It also does some tricks with like binaural audio, where it kind of like makes your brain think things are happening in different like locations around you. And it's just like a ghost story where just like terrible things happen to people, a lot of bad endings. It's very like gratuitous and gross and shameless, but very effective. So it's either like, oh hell yeah, that was awesome, kind of like gratuitous, or like, oh god, this is actually like making me feel uncomfortable. And not in the like it does some what's the best way to put this quickly? It's bad horny at times. With characters that may or may not be underage, and I fully admit that that's bad. And if that's a deal breaker for you, and for most normal people, it probably should be. That's in there. But aside from that, really, really good. Kind of like on the. Sometimes I like my horror to be on like the kind of gross, splattery, degenerate side, and Corpse Party really hits that in really effective ways. So I'll leave it there.
Nice. Will hit it.
Fear
Is great.
Nice.
So Fear is one of those games that like needs an enhanced port or something on consoles. Like it's on Steam. You can buy it. It runs great. And they released on 360, and it still runs. And I know that because I played it on 360. I have a 360 copy. I was looking at my big ass pile back there, and so Fear's really good. But what makes Fear cool is that horror games often do this thing where they either make you not able to fight, at all,
Outlast,
or they make you able to fight, and eventually you become so powerful that nothing is scary.
Resident Evil.
Yeah, I would say it depends on the Resident Evil. The well-balanced ones like walk that line really well, but we always risk that, right? Where like the thing ceases to be scary because I can kill it. And one of the cool things about Fear is it kind of walks away from that by being like, listen, you are absurdly powerful.
Yeah.
Like you can slow down time and do bullet time shit and like
you have fucking assault rifles. Like
jump kick is so good
from the jump.
Yeah, and like the guns in Fear feel amazing. Like some of the best gunplay ever, still in any shooter, and that game is 20 years old.
Yeah.
But the reason that Fear is so deeply unsettling is that you can't hurt Alma. She is just there. And you have to... Sometimes she doesn't do anything to you, sometimes she does. And I think, like, as you play the games, and I would actually recommend, like, the original and the first 2 expansions for the original, and then stopping. And not playing 2 or 3. Because the expansions are non-canon, but they should have been canon. They're better. And the cool thing with Fear is, like, as you play it and you play more of it, you understand, like, why Alma interacts with you the way she does, and it's actually, like, really interesting. But it's doing horror in a way that's subtle. Like, there are sequences where it's like, you're in a room with people, and if you happen to look up in the corner, she's just kind of standing there watching you. And nothing is happening. There's no musical cue. She's just there. And if you look away, she'll be gone. And Fear builds this really cool sense of, like, I'm really powerful, but I am so completely out of my depth that it doesn't matter.
It's almost like it's not Lovecraftian in that, like, you can comprehend what you're up against, but you have no shot.
Yeah, you genuinely, like, you there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the soldiers that, like, you know, you are fighting for plot reasons that I will not spoil, like, you can kill them.
Yeah.
Alma? No. She is beyond you. And that's what makes it cool.
Yeah, it's very good. Also, one thing that I really love about Fear, just to kind of tag on to that, is that it is approaching it from... There are a few, more now than there used to be. There are a few first-person horror games. Not many first-person shooter horror games. Like there are
very few that manage to balance it well.
There are sections of games that are spooky. Like when you go, like you can say that, like, the library in Halo is scary, but, like, it's not a horror game. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's Fear is really, really cool, and I do recommend it as well. And it plays really well. Super fun.
Yeah, games can be spooky, but not horror.
Yeah,
as it were.
Yeah.
Like,
Kris, you got anything?
The one.
You got anything before we jump on?
I will. I did eventually think of it. So technically 2, because one is better as a horror game and one is just so much better as a story that it's beats the other one. And that is the first Amnesia, The Dark Descent, and Soma. Soma is probably the one I give it to because that is so cool. Like, the setting, the vibe, the atmosphere, top notch. The writing, the story.
I think the ideas from Soma are really good.
Yeah. I still think Amnesia plays a little bit better as an actual horror game and, you know, the puzzles and everything like that. But, like, Soma is incredible. And it has stuck with me ever since because of the writing and the questions it asks and what, you know, just, again, the whole, you know, good horror explores themes and emotions and everything in addition to just scaring you shitless. But half the time it's because of these questions that things are scary because you have to confront this shit. Soma does that in spades, and that's my go-to.
Nice. Now, I know you got a huge pile of games in there, Will. Did you want to mention any of those before we move on to Sparking Zero?
Let's just do Sparking Zero. We can talk
Okay.
horror later in the month.
And I
We got the
apologize
whole
for
Spooktober
sabotaging your segue.
beautiful
It was beautiful. It was great. I did want to have good horror stuff for people.
Yeah, I think we should do a whole like podcast of horror themed stuff. But
We should.
As a little teaser,
Yeah.
like I can co-sign basically all these games,
Yeah.
just based on these dudes' taste or because I played them. So I played Sparking Zero, and Sparking Zero is kind of a weird review for me because I played it so much before release. I previewed it for Restart.Run. I played it at several PAXs. I played it at Tekken event that I was at for Bandai Namco.
Was the first time that you played it at Evo?
No, that was like the third or fourth time.
Okay, gotcha.
So I played it a lot pre-release, and you know, I had that big ass preview event like a month ago where I played it for like 3 hours, and then I got the game. And I think the interesting thing about Sparking Zero is it's like very much a PS2 game, and in a way that is good. Where it's like, hey, would you like all these Dragon Ball characters? Like, there's 182 of them. Wouldn't that be cool? Yes. Okay, cool. Would you like a story mode where, like, depending on what you do during the story mode, you can take alternate paths? Yes. All right, cool. That's there. Would you like the ability to, like, you know, buy capsules that give you stat boosts and, you know, buff up your characters? Yeah, you can do that. Sure. Awesome. Would you like the ability to make your team? And then, like, oh, okay, well, you have Goku and Vegeta here, so you can fuse them if you want, like, mid-match. That's fine. We're cool with that. Awesome. All right. You know, so it has all the things that you'd want from like a Dragon Ball game. And the thing that I think that impressed me the most was like arena fighters are not traditionally deep. They're not. They're just not.
They're also
Sparking
not
Zero
traditionally good.
Yeah, Sparking Zero actually has like a good amount of depth to it, just because of the systems. Like the characters are very similar, where it's like you have like combo 1, combo 2, combo 3, combo 4, you know, whatever. And you can link them, and they're all slightly different per character, but it's fundamentally like the same inputs. And then they have like a couple special moves, they have a couple transformations maybe, and then they have like a couple skills, right? But then you have like just an outrageous amount of system mechanics, frankly, where it's like, all right, cool. If this person hits you and you time this, you can like this. I forget the name of it because there's so many mechanics, but you can like press forward and attack at the same time you're getting hit. Basically, be like no, and then start comboing them. Or you can press block at the right time and just dodge behind them completely. Or you can be like, cool, I see that you're going to attack me. I'm just going to take a stance real quick, and then I'm just going to, right? Like, and there's a dozen of these for every situation where it's like, oh, I can vanish, and then I can follow up, and then I can dash, and I can kick you into this wall, and it's all system stuff. And, like, when you're playing that game, what's cool is that it really incentivizes you to use the system things, because it is not worried about being balanced. It's like, listen, that's Broly, and that's Krillin.
Yeah.
One of these motherfuckers is gonna die. Who do you think it's gonna be? Right? Like, or it's
Yeah,
like,
it's fascinating because like they have those interactions in Dragon Ball Fighters, but like Yamcha can absolutely fight Broly, whereas like in the canon, that's a fucking wash, fam. Like that is he is a greasy stain on the floor, which is how Sparking Zero is like. Yeah, that's how it's gonna be.
Right, and so you know you can have these fights, and like Broly's gonna have a huge advantage, right? He's gonna do more damage. He's gonna have more health. He has transformations. This make him do more damage, take less damage. Like he has way better stuff, right? But like, if you are really good at the system mechanics, they're not gonna touch you. It's gonna be really difficult actually, because it's like, oh, well, I see you're trying to shoot like a blast at me. I can dodge that. I can go behind that. I can hit that with my own blast, and we can have our little beam battle thing that we're going to do. You know, I see you're going to try to combo me. I'm just going to get out of that, like, because I know what the answer is in this. And there's like a dozen answers to everything. And so it's really a game that, like, really wants you to mess around with its systems and, like, come to grips with how these combat systems work. And not just be like, I'm going to charge up and do my big attack.
Yeah.
Right? Which is what those games can kind of devolve into sometimes, and it's not that. It's very much like, hey, if you don't know how to dodge this, like this setup that Frieza is going to do to you in story mode, he's just going to kill you over and over and over again. That's gonna be it. You are going to either have to tone down the difficulty or learn how to dodge this. And the other thing that I really love about it, and then I'll let us, I love the attention to detail in it, and that's not just like, oh, if Goku throws Frieza, he'll grab him by the tail. Because they do that in the anime, right? Like, or if this happens between these two characters, like they'll have this dialogue or they'll have this little scene or whatever, and there's dozens and dozens of those. But like the whole game is set in like, you remember how we used to get like DVD and Blu-ray releases that had like really intricate menus? Those are really cool.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
The whole game is that. Where it's like, oh, all right, well, you want to go to story mode, right? So like Goku's gonna teleport over there. And behind him, there's going to be like, oh, it's Bulma's house, and everybody's there, and they're talking, and they're running around in the background, and they're going to say little voice lines and stuff. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, hey, would you like to go, like, see the gallery where you can see information on all the characters? Okay, that's at Mr. Satan's house, and Videl and Majin Buu are just chilling, and they're going to talk to you. And by the way, if you go into the gallery and see all the characters, like, you're also going to jump on, like, a voice call with Chi-Chi and Bulma and Videl, and they're going to tell you something about every single character that they have recorded voice dialogue for.
That's dope.
Cool.
Or like, hey, would you like to go do like one of the tournaments? Like, hey, we've got the Tournament of Power rule set. We have the rule set for, World Tournament. Like, we can make your own. Hey, you want to build your own like custom unique battles where you can like set up like a little story from our pre-recorded kind of like our canned dialogue that you can do? You can do that. You can make your own thing. Cool. We've built a bunch of them that you can also just try and play. Cool. And there's just so much of it. And the whole presentation is like, oh, well, like, yeah, between like the story mode sequences, it's like little animated scenes or little still frames or whatever. It's like, yeah, but also like it sets it up to be like you're in Whis' little staff and you're just like teleporting between scenes, right? And so like the whole presentation is based on this idea of like you are just wandering around the world. And you're not like flying around, you're just going like between like tabs basically. But it's like, oh, here. There's gonna be some dialogue. That's cool. You're in the world. Everything matters. And I wish that games were like, especially like licensed games, were like, hey, you want to be in this world for a little bit? Like, it's not a big thing. It doesn't matter that much. But it made me happy because it was like, oh, I'm gonna go over here, and Trunks is like playing on an iPad, and I can use the iPad to build the custom battles, and he's gonna show it to Goten, and this is cute. It doesn't do anything functionally, but it's just neat. And like that, the whole game like breathes that, where it looks like the anime and sounds like the anime, and you could be like, that's a panel from the manga. Like I can pull that out the same way that Fighters does. And I think that like people have really wanted this game for a really long time because the last one was 2007.
Yeah,
the last Sparking game. It's been a long time, and for them to come out and be like, hey, not only does this have like a good amount of mechanical depth, if you want it. We have 182 characters. We have several story modes that have branching paths. We have all this attention to detail in the menus and in the fights. You could play this game for a really long time.
Yeah.
Just trying to get all this stuff. And that's like, oh, I don't want to play with my friends. Right? Just by myself. I just want to get all this stuff. So I quite liked it. Has some issues, like some of the story mode bosses are really hard because it's like, oh, hey, you're Goku before Super Saiyan, and that's Frieza, and he's gonna beat the ever-loving shit out of you because you're not a Super Saiyan. But it's really cool, and if you like Dragon Ball, I would highly recommend it.
Hell yeah.
Who has two thumbs
awesome.
and loves Dragon Ball?
Ryan.
This guy.
It's awesome because like Dragon Ball games have had such a history of kind of having to try something different just because they're like contractually obligated to pump games out constantly forever. So it's interesting that we're at the point where it's like there was a formula that really worked for a bit there, and there were like 3 of those games and they were awesome and people liked them, but inevitably you get the thing where it's like, okay, well, there's been 3 of them pretty close to each other and we're tired of it and try the next thing. But then there's like years later and it's kind of like, well, looking back, like, hey, we really liked this one. And then they have like the space to do that now and do it big. And you don't see that often, especially with the the churned out anime games.
Yeah, I think the attention to detail is really special. And I think that like the other thing is like, I don't know how expensive this game was. It looks expensive. Like, there's certain games where it's like, you look at like fighting games, like as a good example, like Tekken 8 looks expensive. You look at that game and you're like, this cost an enormous amount of money to make this look the way that it does, right? Just the amount of time. And you look at Sparking and you're like, this looks expensive. There's a lot. Here, there's 182 characters. This looks expensive.
Yeah, the character count is ridiculous. And it's even crazier that even that is a reference to like the first Budokai Tenkaichi. Yeah. But I saw something somebody posted on Twitter, which I didn't know about. And apparently there was something about like Super Saiyan 3 Goku's like win animation or win pose or something like that. And it didn't look that good. And then people were like, this doesn't look good. And they changed it. And then they were like, yeah, this still doesn't look good. And then they changed it again. And it's like one of the ending. Now it's like the pose he does at the end of one of the anime episodes where he's like looking up and to the left and the sun is like behind him. And it's like shining and there's a little bit of lens flare or something. And it's like just right. And like, so the basically what the person was saying on Twitter was the developers have listened to every piece of feedback, no matter how small. And like every patch that's come out pre-release or whatever has like fixed it. And so like talking about the attention to detail and stuff like this screams love. And that carries through into how
they want to get it just right and do right by the people who are paying attention to the details.
Which is really like frustrating for me as somebody who adores Dragon Ball Fighters, but has had to watch Xenoverse 2 get wave after wave after wave after wave of DLC, like from the manga, which is like stuff that I've read that I'm interested in seeing, that like Fighters isn't getting any of that stuff. None of this stuff is happening. They're getting new levels that are from like cool stuff. They're getting like what if stories. They're getting their own creative stories. They're getting characters from Fighters that are being added into it.
Playing Dragon Ball.
Yeah, but I'm sure the next thing would be that Xenoverse 2 is not nearly as good in terms of actual gameplay.
Yeah, and that's the thing that sucks is like to see so much content going to games where like the gameplay is not that good. It makes me happy. It's not Fighters, but it makes me happy to see this attention to detail, this amount of content, and this amount of love going to a game that actually does deliver on the moment to moment that people and Dragon Ball fans want to have.
Yeah, I mean it's not
Xenoverse though.
Like, yeah, it's not as deep as Fighters, right? Like it's still an arena fighter. It's light heavy, like
sure,
light heavy, whatever. But like the cool thing is once you understand how the combo system works, you can be like, cool, light heavy, you're stunned. I'm gonna teleport behind you. I'm gonna knock you up in the air. I'm gonna do this blast attack. Like you can do some really neat chains, and it changes depending on the character.
And it also looks the part, which is like Jump Force was a problem too. So it's like Xenoverse is not the only problem. Like for the Dragon Ball fan out here.
You beat me to bringing up Jump Force. I was going to say it's also kind of the redemption arc for Spike Chunsoft.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they've really, again, just like the amount of care is, and we talked about this earlier on Discord where we're talking about like I hate the phrase love letter, so I'm not going to use it because I'm going to stand by my belief that you should kill cliches. You should take them and run them over with your car before beating them with a sledgehammer. And then you should take the remains and throw it in a storm drain. See? Avoiding cliches. What Xenoverse, or not Xenoverse, what Sparking Zero, I'm sorry, you guys were talking about
My
Xenoverse.
God.
Yeah.
What Sparking Zero feels like to me, I haven't slept.
Yeah.
I was working on the review until like 6 a.m. What Sparking Zero feels like to me is like a parade. You remember like maybe when you were a kid and like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade would come on TV, right? And it was all the cool floats and stuff, and then the big balloons. And it was really cool, right?
They have Goku now too.
Yeah, and there was Goku, right? And it's like, or like when I worked at Disney, like everybody loves the parades. They love to see the parades. The whole park basically stops because it's 3:00 and people want to see the parade.
The Knights End parade at Disneyland was fucking sick.
Yeah, and you can tell like that's not cheap.
Yeah.
Right? Like that takes a lot of work and a lot of coordination to make it look like that. And Sparking Zero feels like watching a really nice parade. Where it's like, hey, all the stuff that you want is here. Look how much effort we put into it. I think that's neat.
That's a really fun
Look at this. All right, my daughter's come with a very special message. Show them what you're playing on the Switch. Show them. Turn around the screen.
Is this the real Dragon Ball?
My daughter has been playing Switch out there. She's been playing Freshly Frosted. She brought up Dragon Ball Fighters. This is my daughter, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely.
Good job, Riley.
Amazing.
Good job, Riley.
My
I'm
goodness.
a girl.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I have a vagina.
My dear Lord. Just play your game, baby. Just play your game. Here, go out to the main room.
This is my gag, so I can just.
She's watching Totoro and playing Dragon Ball. She's living the dream. All right, Finn, get off the
Oh
list.
yeah.
Anyway, Sparking Zero. If you like those games from back in the day,
Edit that out, Chris, please.
Yeah,
I would deeply
100%.
Thank you.
suggest leave the edit that part out.
Yes.
Though,
Yes.
Oh yeah.
because it's like, listen, something happened.
Something definitely happened.
But yeah, if you like those old games from the PS2 days, and you know, I don't have a lot of nostalgia for those games. Weirdly, like I like them, but I was never like, you know, sitting here like, man, that's what I really need. And then I played it, and I was like, I'm a child again.
We
This is
back,
kinda
baby.
cool.
Yeah.
And it's in a good way that like allowed adult me to be like, man, if I ever figure out how to time this like reflect, you guys are so fucking cooked. Like in a way that speaks to the fighting game player in me. So yeah, Sparking
Hell
Zero
yeah.
is a very fun little diversion, and we were living in like a good time for games this month. A lot of cool stuff coming up. So
So
should we
much.
go
yeah.
home?
What's that?
Should we go home?
We can go home. I can dip into something a little bit, or I can wait until next time, which I'm fine with. It's not a big deal. Should we go
2
home?
hours. It's supposed to be short. Can we
It's
go
true.
home?
It was supposed to be short.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get
Well,
out of
after
here.
2
Let's get out of
hours,
here.
time to wrap it up.
Riley, can you wait outside the door real quick? I'm just about to end the episode. Here we go. Let's get out of here. I will talk about the Plucky Squire next time.
I will talk about it with you.
Good. Okay, good. I will play more. I'm 3 hours in. I will play more before the next episode. So, yeah. And Riley and I are playing that together. That's a really fun time. We're having fun with that. Yeah, let's get out of here. This has been episode 326 of The Platformers. Thank you all for joining us so much. If you got thoughts or topics or anything like that, you can hit us up on social media. You can find me on Twitter at Ribnax, Ribnax, and YouTube and Twitch there as well, where I stream the episodes live at roughly 7 p.m. Mondays most weeks. The past couple of weeks, it's been a little touch and go because of personal life stuff. You can also find me at Backlogged and Blue Sky at Brian Barnett, Brian with an I. And yeah, you can hit me up there. You can also check out my guides for Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred on Kotaku right now. You can also check out my guides for Baldur's Gate 3. Oh my gosh. My daughter is Groot, apparently, because she's been watching a lot of I Am Groot on Disney Plus, which is a fun show.
Oh yeah.
You can
stretch his arms.
he can stretch his arms. That's great. All right, baby, can you wait outside for just a second? I'm almost done. And then yeah, so yeah, I got a bunch of guides up. I got a rundown on the Marvel vs. Capcom collection on Kotaku as well. A lot of guides over there, so you can just check out what I'm doing there. Chris, where are you at?
Hi, I am Kris Cornelis. Usually go by Delfeir, Delfeir on the internet. You can find my stuff at my website, versusthebacklog.com. That's vsthebacklog.com, one word. There's actually new stuff there. Shock horror. My impressions for Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred are also up there. And in that same one, I link to Will, so you can check that out as well while you're there. That's it for me, though.
Oh, my turn. I'm Will Burger. You can find me on Twitter at ByWillBurger. That's Burger with an O, not a U. You can also find me on Blue Sky, and I've been a little bit better about it, at Edgar Allan Bro. Most recently, you can find my lovely Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred impressions at Shack News. You can also find my review for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero at Shack News, as well as some other upcoming horror games that I played recently at PAX. It is spooky season. I'm working on a bunch of other things, but I can't talk about any of them yet, so soon. Anyway, that's me.
Soon.
So
Jesus. All right. I'm Lucas White. You can find me on socials at Hokutono Lucas. I should be using Blue Sky, even though I'm not. You can find most of my writing on Shack News. You can as we were recording, the embargo lifted on the preview for Infinity Nikki I wrote earlier this afternoon. Master Detective Archives, that's being edited right now, so that'll be up sometime this week. Also got, there's no embargo, so I can talk about this. They asked me to review UFO 50, so I'm working on that.
I'm very jealous, to be honest. I want to play that.
Yeah, same.
It's interesting. I forgot I was playing it until now, but I should talk about that next time. Playing something else that's really cool that I can't talk about, and probably some other things, because I'm always begging for work from those people. God bless them. Yeah, that's me.
Nice. All right, everybody. From everybody here at the Platformers, we thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a great week. Stay safe out there, because until next time, we are out.
Peace.
Goodbye.